I'm going to, as per what I said before, ask Cllr Rahman as the executive member to respond to what we've heard there. Then we'll go into a discussion about what we do. Yep.
Thank you, Chair. Can I first of all thank Mark and Brian for your comments on the campaign that you've led and the work that you're doing, working with us to try and make an issue that we've have in the city around this monument and trying to find a resolution for it. And also to Councillor Rawlins, who's worked tirelessly to make sure that equalities and accessibility and inclusion is at the forefront of everything that we do. And we're a city that take pride in making sure that everything that we do is inclusive and we champion equalities. Clearly, with this process, there's been a breakdown somewhere along the line. And if I go back to the original concept and brief for this monument, which was to create a non-figurative public arts installation that tells the story of Peterloo. Along the line, in our desire to make this an interactive monument and monument that is accessible, we have obviously had conversations with the artists and with the campaign groups and made adaptations to it that have not made it fully inclusive in the way that it ought to be. And that is clearly something that we have to put our hand up to and acknowledge that we've not been able to do that. I want to go back to what this monument originally, the purpose and the original brief of this monument was, and that was that it's a piece of public art that is to tell the story of Peterloo. And therefore, I think I'd take the quote that Councillor Rawlins said, that is either accessible, inclusive to everyone or to no one. And it should be in the same way as we treat other monuments and other public pieces of artwork in the city, a monument and piece of artwork that is not to be stood on, that is not to be climbed on, and we will put signs up to that effect. So therefore, this will be a piece of public artwork that we will not encourage anybody to stand on or use as a platform to speak from, to stand on, or to engage in that way. This is a piece of public art that would be engaged in by viewing it, by seeing the names and the structure of it, but not to be stood on or to be spoken from.
Rahman, please.
Yeah, just a couple of points. On the, will this be part of the commemoration? Yes, it is a part of the commemoration, but this was never the council's intention for it to be a platform. Therefore, it's not a platform, so it won't be used in that way on August the 16th. So that's why it's not part of, there's a separate stage for the commemoration, but it's the unveiling of the monument that recognises that. From Councillor Douglas's point, it doesn't have to be viewed from the top. You can see the whole monument and all the names on it from the lower level of it. But right now, I'm gonna address what the artist here has been given a clear brief from the council to design a non-figurative monument public arts installation that tells the story of Peterloo. He is beyond his remit to say some of the things that he has been saying. That is not for him to do. That's beyond the brief that he's been given. We are the client. We've given him a brief, and that's what he's provided to us. And and having said all of that, and listening to everybody what we said, clearly we've not, somewhere along the line, there's been a breakdown in the consultation, and I'll get Dave to talk a little bit about the consultation. But the consultation, the communication, what the brief originally was to the artist, what the artist has said, what the local authority is saying, what Manchester History is saying. And for me, I think the solution to this is to go back to the original brief. And the original brief is a public arts installation that reflects the story of Peterloo. And therefore, it's not to be climbed on, it's not to be stood on, and it's not a platform to speak from. It's a monument. Chair, I don't think I'm disagreeing with the comments made by members of this committee. I think what we're trying to get to, we acknowledge that there's been issues, clearly. We acknowledge that we shouldn't have been in the position that we are finding ourselves in. And we're trying to get to a solution that is practical and within reasonable time to complete for the commemoration in August. And taking on point the view that Councillor Joan Davies has presented, I do understand what you're saying about having a rethink about this. And my view is, as the monument stands as the design stands, and you've had these conversations as well with designers and things, it's very difficult to adapt it to the level that it needs to be adapted to as it stands, because we've made those adjustments, we've put the handrail in, we've lowered the stairs, and it isn't what we set out to do. And I'm sorry that I have to keep going back to the original brief. The original brief was to have a public arts installation, and it was never meant to be a platform or something to be stood on or spoken from. That wasn't the original brief, and now we find ourselves, as a result of the artist's interpretation of it, or the way we've consulted, to a situation where it has been presented as an interactive and a monument where people should be standing on. And the solution that I see to that, within the constraints that we've got, is that that we go back to what it is, which is a public arts installation, and therefore that nobody should stand on it or speak from it. And I take your point that people could ignore those signs that we put up, but people ignore the cenotaph, for example, and that's not to be skateboarded on, but people skateboard on that, even though it's not supposed to. Sorry? Yeah, but I think what we can do is try and discourage people from going on it, climbing on it, and that's a solution that I think we can deliver within the timescales that we've got. But of course, I'm happy to listen to recommendations from this committee.
Respond with a couple of bits of information to what's been said. I think we've always known it was meant to be interactive. The drawings that were published show it being used in an interactive way. Jeremy Deller's text that goes with it talks about it, and even, I hope you don't mind me reminding you, Cllr Rahman, but your email to me last week said that it can be interacted with in a number of ways.
Take what Councillor Leach recommended, which, as I understand it, was to stop where we are. There appears to have been agreement has broken out, so I'm a bit loath to disagree with Councillor Leach when we're in such fine fettle. I don't think we should stop doing something. I think we should start doing something, and I think what that start is I think we should assess Cllr Rahman's opinion today that we can make it a art installation that people won't interact with, and that can be enforced and all the rest of it, and I think we should take that as that's a proposal. I think that proposal needs discussing as to how viable it is with people who have a relevant opinion, and that we look for a solution to the situation we are in now, which is that we have an inaccessible monument that we're about to open on the 16th of August, and that is, in my estimation of the comments from the committee, unacceptable as to where we are. The solution doesn't lie in this committee. We can't lay down a set of actions that will go forward. All we can urge is that the executive member engages in a discussion that will lead us to a solution as soon as we can, and if that is after August the 16th, then I think probably we're just going to have to live with that. Cllr Rahman, do you want to respond or not?
No, I'm happy to take those recommendations. I think we've already had a number of discussions, and the option that I presented today was as a result of some of the proposals or some of the adjustments that have been proposed to me. None of them are realistic within the time frame or actually within the design concept that we've got at the moment. So there's no reason for me to say, no, we're not going to have those conversations. That is an option to go back to the original concept, which is that is a monument and not for standing on or speaking on. But at the same time, I'm happy to engage in dialogue with Councillor Rawlins and with the groups that are coming forward with solutions, and we'll look at some of those options. And it may be that we could get it to a situation where it does become an accessible monument, or it may be that we have to make it a monument that is not accessible for anyone, or it may be that we don't even have a monument at all. So all of those options are on the table. We just have to explore and discuss them. So I'm happy to do that and work with people to try and get to a resolution.